My journey began when I was born in Bogota, Colombia. My mom came to the States, specifically New York, when I was 10 months old, and I never went back. During the time that I grew up in New York, it was not a childhood that I would want on anyone or wish on anyone. There was a lot of abuse, mentally, physically, and sexually by my stepfather. And it was something that I thought that was the norm. A lot of fears were instilled in my life. Fears of things that most people would say they shouldn't be there, but they were. Certain instances that occurred that literally scarred me emotionally and mentally. And I didn't deal with them very well. I covered them. I also had physical scars on my body, one of which is on my leg, which about a year ago, it's going to be actually a year ago in July, I decided to cover it because I did not want to be a victim anymore. I needed to be a survivor. After many years of counseling and repressive memory that kept coming back, I thought I was going crazy because these things don't happen, and you start questioning yourself. The voices in your head that tell you you are going crazy, these things didn't happen, and then you know that the right thing is that they did happen because they're so vivid, and you start realizing they did happen to you. It was my way, or my mental way of being able to overcome was to repress the memories. And through counseling, I learned a lot of that, how a repressive memory works. And there are certain things that will trigger those memories, and they can happen rather quick or slowly. In my case, it was the floodgates just opened up and the memories came. And I think that's what made it so much more difficult to deal with. So that occurred when I was probably in my 20s. And I literally checked myself into the psych ward because I said to myself, I'm either going to hurt myself or my two younger little boys, and I'm scared. Not that I was a physically abusive mother by any means, but I was afraid if this fear is just so overwhelming for me, what could I possibly do? And I can possibly hurt the children. So I did check myself into the psych ward against the psychiatrist wanting me to check in. He was like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just having an episode. You need to just, go to counseling and stuff. And I was like, no, I'm afraid to go home. And so I didn't go home. I spent 6 weeks in the psych unit, being evaluated, dealing with stuff. And it was the beginning of me realizing what had happened to me as a child and into my teenage years. That's why I couldn't remember the good memories of growing up, the wonderful memories of my mother, for example, and the things she instilled in us. And one of those things was faith. That things happen for a reason. They're not coincidental. Everything is timed by God. Just a lot of stuff that was positive that in the negative, I literally repressed everything. When that happened, I had my third child, and then eventually I had a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth. Now I have 4 sons and 2 daughters who I adore. They range from 35 down to almost 25. My ex and I did raise them, and it was a difficult time. He had to deal with a lot of things, and about a year ago I realized that those things that he had to deal with, he tried his best with what he had, and unfortunately he couldn't handle it. But I can tell you that I've learned a lot. We were married and together almost 34 years. He decided to have an affair. The woman he was having the affair put it on Facebook for the world to see, and that's how all 6 of our adult children found out. And that was in 2019, in July of 2019. It was very, very hard. I've always been a very overprotective parent. My kids could tell you, my mom wouldn't let us do this or do that. I was always protective, and I understand why. And it was always, I didn't want what happened to me as a kid to happen to my own children. So I had to be overprotective to the point that it was almost like I was a control freak in their lives, in their minds, because they used to call me Hitler. They used to be like, Mom doesn't want us to live our lives. She wants to control everything. And it's not that at all. I couldn't share with them exactly what had happened until they got older, where I could tell them as young adults, this is why. And then they could understand better. And it did happen with my 3 older ones years ago when they were old enough to understand. I sat them down and I explained to them, this is why Mom is the way she is. And I'm not making an excuse. There's a reason. And you're old enough to understand. My kids, some of them were a little like shocked because they didn't expect that, but they understood. And it also upset them because that's not the way they grew up. They didn't grow up with a mother who physically and mentally and verbally and sexually abused them. So it's good because now I see what real children should grow up in a house that was loving, with Mom and knowing that no one was going to abuse them as far as like the male figure, which was my ex. So it was nice to see that my kids didn't go through that, and I chose to break that cycle. And it takes generations of it to continue and continue until someone actually breaks that cycle. All along that trip, I also realized that there was a higher power that my mom always talked about, and that was our God. He's the one that's been my constant in my life. And I've noticed, especially in the last year and a half, more revealed than ever that he is there. It's not just hearsay. It's not just I feel the presence or looking back on life. He's real. He's real. Fast forward to the affair. My husband decided to leave. It wasn't the first time he had cheated on me. I thought after so many years of being married that we had gotten through so many things. There was nothing that could break us apart. Nothing. Even infidelity, which, like I said, had occurred prior the years before. And I went from weighing 148 pounds in 6 weeks to weighing 88 pounds. My daughter, Lauren, who's the oldest of the girls, said to me, we're worried about you, Mom. And, we don't know what to do. And, you can't continue being like this. You can't continue to lock yourself up and cry and not deal with life. And, I can't have you around my kids because my kids are being affected. They don't know what's wrong with their Mimi. It was really hard. And it was hard for her to tell me. But I wasn't looking at it as, I understand. To me, it was like, how dare you? Did you forget what was done to me? Did you forget what I've been going through, and you're going to attack me and tell me that I'm the bad guy in this situation? And she's like, we're concerned. You're barely weighing 80 pounds. And me being proud, 80 pounds? No, I'm 88 pounds. What are you talking about? And little by little, I started realizing that, she was right. She asked me to come back to church. And I did, and I honestly believe that I did it out of desperation because I was trying to fix my marriage. I was trying to fix the situation, even though it wasn't mine to own. It wasn't my actions that caused this. It was something that was decided for me by my ex. So for me, I didn't see that. I saw it as, there's a God. He's gotten me through everything. He's going to be there, and I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix this, and we're going to live happily ever after, and we're going to die together and be married for many, many more years until death do us part. Well, unfortunately, that was not the case, and I started seeing a man that I did not know, a man that I married and broke my heart more than once, left my world in pieces, and I needed to pick up those pieces and do something. I pulled away from my kids, and I know they pulled away from me too. They wanted me to not get a lawyer. They wanted me to, trust their dad, and dad's going to do this for you, and dad's going to do that. And the reality of it is they didn't know my ex like I knew him. And I, again, my protective side, didn't want to share with them the things that they didn't know that I held onto through the years. And it was unfortunate, to date, I haven't shared a lot with them of what's happened during the divorce proceedings other than at the beginning. And that's when I realized, you know what, I'm done, because whatever I say somehow gets back to him, and then I look like the bad guy. So by doing that and fighting back and forth, it wasn't making any sense. I started realizing that, you know what, if I did do that, number one, I was the villain. Number two, I became the scorned woman. And number three, I had no right to talk bad about their father to them based on what was happening, because ultimately what was happening in our marriage was really between John and I, and not John and I and the children. And it was very hard, because you would think during a divorce that your adult children would understand, and they wouldn't have to feel like they're picking sides. But my kids did. They felt like they were picking sides, and that's ultimately not what I wanted. I wanted them to, at the end of the day, that's their daddy, to have a relationship. Whatever that relationship is, that was between that child and their father, not based on my influence. So that's what caused me to pull away. And I started praying a lot, coming to church. And since I got back to church that Sunday with my daughter, I can tell you there's only been 2 messages that have not applied to me every week. It's only been 2. And that is crazy. That's crazy, because now I see more than just me and my woes and oh, poor me. I see that there's something bigger. During that time also, I knew that the food distribution center was looking for people. They had talked about it at service. They had advertised it on the website, and something was overwhelmingly pulling me to go. And my kids were like, "Mom, you're out of your mind. Why would you do that? It's COVID. You're in that age group that you can catch it. You can get sick." And I just looked at them and I was like, I don't know. There's something that tells me I need to do this. And I did. And it was wonderful. And it made me realize, as part of my journey also, that here all this is happening to me. But I'm not to be selfish or hide that my story means something. It might not mean as much as someone else's story, but there are people out there that have worse situations than me. It made me realize I needed to be humble more than ever. It made me realize that I needed to be strong more than ever. It taught me a lot of stuff. I've been able to be at the food distribution center and work directly with people, hear their stories when we had the lines that went through in the cars, and get someone to pray passionately with them, listen to the prayer, listen to their story and how profound it was, and find myself in their story to some degree, and be able to have an encouraging word for them and build a friendship with them, even though it's not outside of the church. When I see them, "Hey, Sandy, how are you doing?" And now I'm like, "Oh, how are you?" And it's phenomenal, those type of bonds and relationships that I did have, but I didn't have. And then now we fast forward to, it was Labor Day weekend last year, and I ended up getting hurt. We're not sure if it was a combination of lifting 50 pounds or so in the food distribution, or a combination of lifting weights, 6 days a week working out. I don't know, but it literally stopped me from being able to work out at all for 11 weeks, to find out that I literally blew my L3 and L4 in my back. So couldn't come back to pure heart. I couldn't work out. It was awful. It was 11 weeks of staying home in excruciating pain, and a lot of time that felt like it was open space of, how am I going to get through today? And a lot of time to think. And I did a lot of reading and a lot of thinking and a lot of prayer. And it's amazing how God works, that in those silent moments you can hear the presence of something greater than you telling you, it's going to be okay. Just trust me. Even though I was like, poor me, So I took a leap of faith and went back to my doctor and said, look, I can't do this anymore. I need to be active. I can't sit at home wondering, like, when is my back going to heal? So he released me to go back to working out 4 days a week max, no more than 20 pounds of weights at all, go to physical therapy, and I cannot lift anything at all, not my grandbabies, not anything. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Came back to Pure Heart, and that led to, we need someone that speaks Spanish to translate. And goes, oh, we didn't know you spoke Spanish. So, yeah, I do. And I've been there since last year in November, and I'm loving it. And it's more in depth, the relationships that I deal with now with the people. I see that their story means something. Their story is their story to tell. And it makes me realize that there's not one story that doesn't mean something. Every story means something. Everyone has a story, and mine is just as important as anybody else's. I have found that because of my journey, I've been able to help my daughter, who was supposed to get married last Friday. Unfortunately, 3.5 weeks before the wedding, she called it off due to infidelity. And it was very hard for her. It was very hard. But then I realized why I was there for her and why I have gone through the infidelity for the second time, so that I could help my daughter get through her struggle. And she did it with such grace and such beauty and such faith that I'm so proud of her for that. My divorce was finalized in April. Fast forward, on May 18th, my kids were told that their father was engaged to the woman who he's been having the affair with. Short. So boom, divorce, and now he's engaged. And a few weeks later, they find out that Dad's getting married, and he got married on June 4th. And my kids were afraid to tell me that Dad is getting married. I think I really believe that it's because they were afraid of the hurt that it was going to hurt me. And you know what? I said to my daughter, if this would have happened a year ago, I would have been in complete just turmoil and in tears saying, how could you do this to me? You know, you didn't even give us a chance, you know, whatever. And that's not at all what happened. I chuckled when my daughter told me the day before they were getting married. I chuckled, and she said, Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I was like, I think it's funny. I think it's hysterical. I think he's making a big mistake, but not my circus, not my monkeys. You know, he's going to have to learn, you know, the hard way. I felt no sorrow. I felt no wishing I could go back. I didn't miss us. I didn't miss our marriage. I didn't miss my husband. I didn't miss anything. And that was pretty sad, because to me, I thought, you know, that's not the way it's supposed to be. But it was the way it was meant to be. It was the end of that chapter and the beginning of a new one for me. And that's also resounding when I realized that God's been with me, because if he wasn't, I would not have made it this far. You know, for me to be able to face the music with grace and with forgiveness and without bitterness is a big deal. It is a very big deal. So I was fine that day. You know, my son had asked me that morning if I was okay. You know, you sure you're okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I said to him, you know, your dad's getting married today. And he goes, yeah, I'm not going to be there. And I was like, okay, you know, but I really believe he expected me to fall apart and cry. And that's something that I think shocked my kids, or at least the 2 of the 6. I think it really shocked them that I didn't fall apart. However, I was doing really good that day until that night when I was getting ready to go out on a date. And my daughter texted me, Mom, you know, I left, there's something on the counter is actually what she said. And I was like, Chrissy, what is it? And she's like, there's something on the counter, just go downstairs. I texted her back, I don't have time for this, I'm running late. And she goes, Mom, just please go downstairs and check. So I went downstairs, like thinking maybe there's a scorpion or some creature. And I look on the counter, I was like, what is that? And there's a bouquet of flowers. And I'm going, did somebody drop off a bouquet of flowers and I don't know about it? So I approached the bouquet and there was a card and it said Mama. And so I was like, it's not my birthday yet. My birthday's, 12 days or so. So I opened up the card, and in the card, she put it in a nutshell. Mom, I know that today's probably a hard day for you, but I just want you to know that I'm proud of you and how strong you have been during the last 2 years. And always remember every day how beautiful you are. Love, Chrissy. That's when I fell apart. Not because my ex was getting married, because I could care less. It was because I finally felt like one of my kids could see that even though I've gone through the storm, and I'm still going through the storm, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. She actually saw that through everything I've been through, I've gotten stronger. That I am doing right by me. And that God is there. So that was the proof. And I could tell you that was mind-blowing. Since then, I have decided that the month of June is my birth month, and I'm going to celebrate life. I was supposed to go to Texas where my daughter was getting married, and when she called off the wedding, my sisters decided that they were going to turn that into a vacation, a family vacation. And so when I went to cancel my flight, a friend of mine, Steve, decided to tell me, don't cancel it. Talk to your daughter. Make sure she's going to be okay. Because I know you're concerned that, she's supposed to get married on the 18th and you want to be there for her. And maybe she doesn't need you to be there for her. Talk to her before you cancel anything. And I didn't want to, because I didn't want to make my daughter feel bad or bring her to somewhere where she didn't want to be. Like, I don't want to talk about this, Mom, that type of thing. And come to find out, she's like, Mom, I already have plans. I'm going to Florida with my friends. I was like, are you sure? Yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, okay. And so I made a decision to go see my sisters, and my friend Steve came with me. He had a sister that lives in Austin, and I spent a whole week there, and it was the best decision I've ever made, because it's part of my journey where God was there speaking through Steve and through my sisters. To hear Steve say to me, your birthday gift is a zipline gift. And for me to say ziplining, okay. And he says, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, you do know I'm afraid of heights. Well, yeah, that's the point. You're going to get over it. And to hear him say to me, the beliefs that I have about faith over fear, and you can do this. And there's someone that's always going to be with you. You believe in that. You just have to, prove it to yourself. Prove it to yourself. Don't just say it. Prove it. And that's exactly what happened. To go 2,850 feet on the last zip line and see a boat that looked like it was 8 inches, and then see how tiny it was, not even an inch, was nerve-wracking. And to know that he pushed me and did it in such a gentle way, in such a supportive way, by using faith and what the core of me is, was amazing, because I did not know that core was really there. I knew that I had faith, but I didn't know that the core of my being was that faith. He brought it out. He kept saying, don't let that fear get to you. It's all in your head. That fear is all in your head. You've overcome so much in your life. That fear is in your head. He says, live in the present right now. Don't think what may happen. Think about right now what's happening and enjoy the moment. Be present. And take that leap of faith. Only you can do it. I can't do it for you. And he was right. He was so right. So I owe him a lot. I owe him a lot of gratitude. I feel very blessed. It's like God put him in my life just for now. We even talked about it. Where were you a year ago? And he was like, you aren't ready for me to enter in your life. I was like, what do you mean? Because it's all about timing. And he was right. It's all about timing. God knew that I needed to go through the despair that I went through the brokenness, through the questioning, where are you? Through the doubt, because I had so much doubt, the feeling of not being enough, having to learn that I am enough. And so is everybody else. They just have to believe in that. They have to go through their journey, and they have to go through the courageous steps that it takes to get there. And with that comes grace and strength and clarity and wisdom and so many things that you don't realize that you do possess. You just don't open yourself up for it. And once you do and you allow God in your life, all that is displayed right in front of you. He's giving you all that. You're just too blind to see it when you're going through the storm. If you would just open your arms and say, God, take this from me, at that point is when things start happening. It becomes magical. For lack of a better word, that's actually the best way I can say it. And this past week, it's been just that. It's been magical. It's been knowing someone who has pushed everything that I believe in front of me. You're the one speaking. You're the one saying faith over fear. Now prove it to yourself, because obviously you know that it is, but you need to prove it to yourself. And I did. I was able to go through those 5 zip lines with very minimal fear. Hesitation, yes, but I did it. And I know that there was one constant that's always been in my life and was there with me, and that was the Lord, my God. So yeah, it was terrific. So for me, I don't know exactly what is on the calendar per se for my journey. I don't have a crystal ball that tells me that, but I can tell you that I see life differently today than I did last week, than I did a year ago. And that vision to me is, for one, the one thing I can count on is God will always be with me. For 2, no matter what you're going through, I don't care if it's me, my children, someone I know or someone I don't, you have that power within you to overcome. You have that power within you to be a light. You have that power within you to have the wisdom to touch someone else. But you have to let go. You have to let go and let God work in your life. It's been a slow process, a very hard process. It has made me realize also that just like everybody else, I'm a masterpiece. In God's eyes, I'm a masterpiece, a very important masterpiece. And I might not be completed because my journey hasn't ended. So I'm a masterpiece in progress. I'm a masterpiece that He values, and I'm worth everything. And I'm worthy of having the best of the best, and I deserve the best of the best, just like everybody else. And in the process of doing that, I also have to give back. And how do I do that? By telling my story, by being there, even if I don't know you, to be a light in your life. Because if I can do it, you can do it. If I can accomplish what I've accomplished in my short 56 years of life, because I don't consider myself 56 years old, I consider myself 56 years young. It's all in the attitude. And keep a positive attitude and know that God's with me. And He's with everyone who allows Him to live in their life. So, that's where I'm at now. And I'm looking forward to what the journey entails. I know it's not going to be a perfect road. There's going to be some curves that aren't going to be very much fun or are going to be very daring or scary. But there's one thing is I'm going to meet you at the end of that road, and I'm going to be stronger than ever and braver than ever and better than ever, the best version I can be at that point. And I have goals, and those goals are to be able to spread the love of what God has given me to others, to be able to inspire someone, be a light in them, maybe be that match that lights that fire within them to make a change. I could have chosen, because of my abuse and everything I've been through, to lead a life of drugs or alcohol or prostitution. That was not meant in my journey. But I know that there are people out there that are hurting, that have led, if not are dealing with it still, and haven't gotten to that breaking point where they say, I'm worth it. Yeah, you're worth it, and you can do it. You can do it. Or the battered woman who can't pull away from the spouse, who keeps making empty promises, and she doesn't have the courage to come forth and say, enough, I'm not doing this anymore. It could be anybody, it could be the mom who has the perfect life, but she's so stressed out because she doesn't know how she's going to make it through the day, because raising kids is really hard. And it could be something as simple as, I'm not good enough as a mom. Oh yeah, you are. You are. We're all human beings that are children of the greatest king in the world, and that's God. So it doesn't matter whether you've had a perfect childhood and perfect marriage, perfect life, or been through everything and been homeless, or been an alcoholic, or been abused. It doesn't matter. We're all here for one purpose, and that's to be the best that we can be. If we would just open our hearts to God so that he can work in us and we can be the best version of who we were meant to be. So, yeah, I have a lot of goals. I want to reach out to people and work with people and help people, and most importantly, spread that, God is with us. He hasn't abandoned us. He never has. Maybe we have. In a lot of instances, I know I have. I've walked away. My walking away wasn't because I wanted to. It was because I was afraid. So instead of facing fear and saying, let me take that leap of faith, I withdrew. I pulled away. But he never left me. He never left me. It was all in there. I was just needing to break free, And I can tell you that was prefaced this week by my sisters, specifically my younger sister, Jo, who said to me, you look so different. You look happy. For the first time in a long time, you are who we grew up with. And she made a comment in front of my other sister and her family and my friend Steve. And she says, Steve, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Because for the first time in a very long time, our sister is back. This is the sister we knew before she got married. This is the sister we grew up with. She was fierce. She loved. She was present. She was there. After she got married, something went wrong. She lost herself. She lost that vitality about her. She lost that wonderful light about her. And I questioned it. I was like, what are you talking about? I've been there. I've been there for everyone. She goes, that's right, you have. And that's what I'm talking about. You are always there for everybody else but you. You lost that. Those gifts that mom gave us, about faith and just being a graceful woman and moving forward with no fear of anything, knowing that God was there. You lost that. Somewhere along the line, you lost that. And I recognized that. She was right. Because I've been looking the last 2 days about the last week and the last several years of my life, and I did. I lost who I was. I lost the fact that I was the daughter of the greatest king who put everything in me to be the best version of myself, to be that Christian woman who's graceful and can walk this earth and spread the light of God and spread the word of God and do it with not just speaking about it, but in my actions. And slowly but surely that has developed. So although I've been through the trials and tribulations, the most recent is the divorce and how hard it was, something great came out of it. Besides my children that I adore, something great came out of this divorce. And that's me breaking out of those chains that held me back from being what God meant me to be. And although it was a horrible price to pay, I don't wish that on anyone, because it's a horrible pain that you go through, the striking of betrayal is so heart-wrenching, and the pieces that you're left with to pick up and try to put back together is heart-wrenching, and it's devastating. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But out of those ashes, something glorious has happened. And that's me, surviving, knowing that I'm fierce, knowing that I'm brave, knowing that I'm graceful, knowing that I'm definitely worthy of so much more than what I had, and knowing that now it's my turn to go forward and show people by whether it's my actions or a word or a compliment or just being there and being a light in their life. It doesn't matter. That's my purpose, to do that. And it's all our purpose, and no matter where life takes us. So, yeah, I can honestly say for the first time in my life, I'm really proud of myself and how far I've come. And I can tell anyone, if you just let him in your heart, you can be a light for so many. And for me, if I can be a light in one person's life, it was well worth my journey.